I speak to you today with feelings of profound sorrow.
The pen touched the paper for only a few seconds, but those seconds erased the last private right Prince Harry still possessed inside the sovereign's personal estate. King Charles did not raise his voice. He did not summon the press. He simply signed an official order removing his younger son from the sealed Duchy of Lancaster consultation list, and when the document was lifted from the desk, one final thread between father, son, and crown had been severed. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Charles read the final paragraph twice. The Duchy of Lancaster is the private estate that supports the reigning sovereign, but this order concerned far more than money. It stripped Harry of his right to receive, review, and answer consultations involving private residences, inherited holdings, and traditions affecting him or his children. The privilege carried no power to command. It carried recognition. It said he still belonged inside the room, from thousands of miles away. Camilla watched the king's hand pause above the signature line. She had seen hesitation before, but this was different. He knew future decisions could now pass without Harry's knowledge or warning. The queen consort asked whether delay might preserve a path back. Charles lowered his eyes, signed, and placed the pen down carefully. Then he said an inherited right could not survive after inherited trust had disappeared. Harry opened the secure message in California, expecting legal language and another managed palace explanation. Instead, one sentence stopped him cold. The Duke of Sussex read it again, then a third time, as if repetition might soften its meaning. Meghan asked what had happened. He did not answer. She watched him push his chair away and stare at the screen as though his father had spoken through it. The decision had not been sudden. Charles's office had prepared, revised, and held the directive for days, while arguments continued behind closed doors. Someone had convinced the monarch that waiting would deepen uncertainty, and the family wound. Harry now understood that the signature was only the final act of a decision shaped by other hands. A second sealed page made the blow worse. His name had not merely been removed. Another royal figure had been placed into the confidential position once reserved for him. The palace was not simply closing a door, it was rebuilding the family structure without him. Then Harry saw the detail that turned shock into fury. William had known the order was coming. The signature belonged to Charles, but the decision carried the fingerprints of nearly everyone Harry no longer trusted. For years, Prince Harry had lost titles, duties, access, protection, and influence. Yet one quiet privilege remained untouched. His place within the duchy consultation circle meant that somewhere beneath the public anger and private accusations, King Charles still acknowledged him as a son whose voice might matter. That is why the new order struck so deeply. It did not merely reduce Harry's status. It forced every member of the family to decide whether blood still guaranteed belonging. Harry had never controlled duchy money, land, or royal property. The consultation right simply ensured that major decisions involving private residences, memorial estates, and inherited family traditions could not pass around him in total silence. The Duchy of Lancaster was the sovereign's private estate, supporting the monarch while also carrying generations of family history. Losing access meant losing the last formal proof that his opinion still had a place in his father's private world. Charles understood the danger from the other side. Every confidential paper now carried the fear of another leak, another accusation, another conversation dragged into public conflict. The king still loved his younger son, but love no longer erased the risks surrounding him. Each broken exchange had convinced the monarch that affection could not continue overruling caution. William entered the room before the order was signed. Prince William chose every word carefully, telling his father that uncertainty was damaging the family and weakening trust inside the palace. The future king argued that Harry could not remain half inside and half outside forever. Yet when Charles asked whether removing his brother was truly necessary, he lowered his eyes before answering. That silence revealed the burden behind his support. Meghan saw the deeper wound immediately. The Duchess of Sussex watched her husband move from anger into something quieter and more painful. Harry paced, stopped, then read the document again. She told him the palace had finally shown how it truly viewed him. He shook his head and answered that the palace was not what hurt. His father had made the choice. Camilla carried the same fear in a different form. Queen Camilla waited until William had left before asking Charles whether he was protecting the crown or punishing his son. The king did not answer. He simply stared at the papers, and she understood that even he could no longer separate duty from hurt. Harry then found the detail that deepened everything. Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet had lost their automatic link to future family consultations as well. Their names had not been struck out directly, but without their father's access, decisions affecting their ceremonial connection could move forward without formal notice. Then the sealed schedule revealed Princess Anne as Harry's replacement. The choice looked practical, but it pointed back to one private gathering where trust had finally collapsed. To understand why Charles chose Anne over his own son, the family had to return to the moment Harry's last royal protection began to break. The final break did not begin with a newspaper headline or a televised interview. It began during a restricted family consultation at Balmoral, where a private proposal concerning one of the late Queen's memorial properties was discussed behind closed doors. Harry was included through his surviving duchy privilege. Hours later, details known only to those inside the consultation appeared in an overseas legal communication. Charles saw the wording, recognized the private phrases, and realized the last confidential channel to his son might already be compromised. Charles had called the gathering 3 weeks before the order. The Balmoral consultation was a confidential family discussion held at the royal estate in Scotland, where sensitive private matters could be considered away from public duties. William, Anne, and Edward attended in person, while Harry received the sealed proposal through his remaining right of access. The plan involved turning a secluded duchy-linked residence into a restricted memorial retreat honoring Queen Elizabeth II. Harry objected almost immediately. The Duke of Sussex feared the retreat could become another place where Archie and Lilibet were remembered in theory, but excluded in practice. He sent a sharply worded response demanding written guarantees that both children would be recognized equally whenever the property was used for family commemorations. His message carried anger, but beneath it sat a deeper fear. That distance was slowly becoming erasure. Charles read the response twice. The king disliked the accusing tone, yet he agreed the grandchildren should never carry the punishment of adult conflict. He told Princess Anne that Harry's place in the process should be protected and that he intended to answer privately. Anne listened without interrupting, while the monarch insisted that one difficult message was not enough to destroy the final channel between father and son. William's restraint ended 2 days later. Prince William entered his father's study and closed the door harder than he meant to. External legal representatives had used exact phrases from the restricted proposal. The future king argued that the family could not keep offering confidential access while preparing for its private words to appear elsewhere. Then one sentence changed everything. Charles had written by hand, "The grandchildren must never inherit the quarrel." Almost the same wording appeared in correspondence challenging the memorial plan. Only a tiny group had seen that note. Harry denied leaking anything during a secure recorded call. He accused palace staff of turning him into the easiest suspect and demanded to know who had first linked the phrases. Charles refused to name the source. The silence enraged his son even more. Anne remained after the call ended. She placed the leaked wording beside the original note and told her brother that blame was no longer the only issue. A confidential system that could not be trusted had to be closed, whoever had broken it. Charles had resisted removing Harry while the case rested on suspicion. Now father and son would have to meet without distance, advisors, or polite palace language between them. When Prince Harry entered the private room at Clarence house, no aides followed him. King Charles was already standing beside a small table holding 2 documents, the original duchy consultation privilege and the order prepared to revoke it. For several seconds, neither man sat down. The father wanted an explanation. The son wanted an accusation he could fight. Instead, Charles touched the older document and told Harry that the privilege had survived every previous crisis, but it could not survive the destruction of confidentiality itself. Harry had returned to Britain after demanding the right to answer the accusation face to face. Clarence House was the king's London residence, but that afternoon it became something far more personal. A room where royal procedure could no longer hide the pain between father and son. No recording secretary took notes. No legal advisor waited nearby. Charles had removed every institutional barrier, leaving only the truth neither man wanted to hear. Charles asked for one guarantee. The king wanted written assurance that confidential duchy material would never be shared with lawyers, advisors, producers, publishers, or representatives, without royal permission. Harry refused immediately. The Duke said the condition treated everyone around him as a threat and forced him to choose between defending himself and remaining part of the family. Harry pointed toward the prepared order. His voice sharpened as he accused his father of deciding the outcome before the meeting had even begun. Charles stepped closer and answered that the document existed because every attempt at peace had been followed by another legal fight, another public claim, or another broken confidence. The monarch stayed controlled until one sentence escaped with unmistakable pain. "You have left me no safe way to keep you inside." Harry reached into his coat and removed a folded copy of his Duchy consultation warrant. The warrant was the written authority confirming his right to receive those private family papers. He placed it on the table and told Charles that taking the privilege officially would prove the palace had never intended to rebuild trust. Charles did not sign. Instead, he offered one final alternative: suspend the right for a year and submit the dispute to a confidential review. For a moment, the room softened. Then Harry asked who would control that review. When his father answered that palace officials would manage it, the Duke rejected the proposal, saying those same people had repeatedly briefed against him. Harry left without shaking Charles's hand. The king did not call him back. Later, William entered and found the unsigned order beside the abandoned warrant. The prince looked at the empty chair where his brother had refused the final compromise. The confrontation ended without agreement, leaving Charles with a choice no father wanted, and a decision the future king believed could no longer be postponed. The official order carried the king's signature, but the power behind it came from a smaller circle that had spent months preparing for the moment when family loyalty and sovereign security could no longer coexist. William wanted clarity. Anne demanded discipline. Camilla feared the emotional cost. Edward urged restraint. At the center sat Charles, listening as those closest to him discussed his son as both a wounded man and a royal risk. Two identities the monarchy could no longer manage together. Charles gathered the family inside a private chamber, with the monarch's principal private secretary present to record the decision. This was not a constitutional council, which would involve formal state business and government responsibility. It was a family security consultation, a closed discussion meant to decide whether Harry's remaining access to confidential duchy matters could still be defended. William spoke first. Prince William argued that temporary suspensions would only create new negotiations, fresh resentment, and another crisis months later. The future king said his brother could not remain half inside the royal structure while rejecting the rules that protected it. Every uncertain exception weakened trust, and every delay forced the family to reopen a wound that never had time to heal. Edward refused to let the argument pass without challenge. Prince Edward warned that removing Harry's final privilege could confirm his darkest belief that the family was not protecting itself, but slowly erasing him. The Duke of Edinburgh, a title held by a senior royal supporting the crown, asked whether security had become an excuse for abandonment. Anne answered that belonging could not survive through permanent exceptions. Edward looked directly at her and asked who would tell Harry that discipline mattered more than blood. Anne did not hesitate. Princess Anne agreed to become the confidential family representative for sensitive duchy consultations, meaning she would receive and respond to private estate matters once connected to Harry. The Princess Royal showed no triumph. She told Charles that accepting the role would make her the public symbol of his son's exclusion. The king understood, and she understood, that he had already begun carrying the blame alone. Camilla waited until the room emptied. Queen Camilla found Charles holding the original consultation warrant, the document that had confirmed Harry's access. She urged him to delay the signature until morning. The queen consort asked whether one night might change his mind. He admitted that he had spent years hoping his son would return to the rules without being forced. Charles then made the decision even harsher. Before midnight, the king added a handwritten instruction preventing the removed privilege from passing automatically to Archie and Lilibet. The amendment turned one man's punishment into a generational separation. By dawn, the order no longer affected only Harry. It had redrawn the future relationship between his children and their grandfather's private royal inheritance. The fallout began before the public knew anything had changed. A secure palace account stopped recognizing Prince Harry's credentials. A sealed briefing scheduled for his review disappeared from the system. His name was removed from the next duchy family consultation before anyone issued a public statement. The new reality announced itself not through trumpets or ceremony, but through silence. One by one, The mechanisms that had continued to treat him as an inside voice began operating as though he had never been there. Harry tried to open the scheduled briefing again. The secure Duchy account was the protected communication system used to deliver confidential family estate papers, and the message on his screen was brutally simple. He was no longer an authorized recipient. Future decisions involving sovereign residences, memorial arrangements, and inherited family traditions could now move forward without his acknowledgement. He closed the laptop, waited, then opened it again as though the words might somehow change. Meghan watched the anger arrive first. The Duchess of Sussex heard her husband speak rapidly about legal challenges, public statements, and every advisor who needed to be called. Harry paced across the room, then stopped without warning. His voice dropped as he admitted that the privilege had been the last proof his father still expected him to return one day. She reached for his hand, but he pulled away and walked outside alone. William refused to let the palace hide behind careful language. Prince William read a draft statement describing the decision as an administrative clarification and pushed it back across the table. The future king warned that the public would recognize the truth immediately. Calling the removal routine would make the family appear dishonest as well as divided, and he would not defend wording that reduced a painful rupture to paperwork. Anne chose directness instead of silence. Princess Anne telephoned Harry through a private recorded call and told him she had accepted the confidential role once connected to him. The Princess Royal said she would not allow him to learn that fact from a headline. Harry asked whether she had recommended his removal. She did not answer at once, and that pause told him everything. Anne finally warned that Charles had not acted because he stopped loving his son. The king had acted because every protected channel had become another battlefield. Harry replied that the family created those battles by refusing to hear him privately. She answered that trust could not survive when every conversation arrived carrying the threat of another conflict. Then William's message appeared. He asked Harry to meet without lawyers, advisors, or palace staff. There was no apology, and no promise of reversal. The machinery of exclusion had already begun, but the emotional verdict would depend on what happened when the brothers finally faced each other, without the crown standing between them. There was no long table, no private secretary, and no royal document between them. Prince William and Prince Harry met in a small room, where the only visible reminder of their history was a framed photograph of their mother. For once, neither brother arrived to negotiate a title or defend a public position. William wanted Harry to understand why the order had become unavoidable. Harry wanted his brother to admit that necessity had become a convenient word for rejection. William had chosen a secluded residence away from the main palace offices. The brothers left their phones outside and entered without advisors, lawyers, or aides. That mattered because every recent conversation had been shaped by people waiting beyond the door. Now there was no institution to speak for them. The future king had only his own words, and Harry had nowhere to direct his anger except at the man in front of him. William admitted his part without hesitation. The prince said he had supported permanent removal after the Balmoral consultation collapsed. He insisted the decision was not designed to humiliate his brother. It was meant to stop private family material from becoming part of legal disputes, public arguments, and wider campaigns. Harry listened, but the explanation only sharpened the wound. Harry told him the privilege had never been about power. The Duke said William knew exactly what it represented. It was the final official sign that the family still imagined a path back for him. Taking it away did not simply close access to documents. It announced that the monarchy had stopped expecting his return. William looked toward their mother's photograph before answering. He admitted that part of him had continued waiting for Harry to come home under different circumstances. Yet every new conflict had forced him to prepare for another future one, where they might remain brothers in private, but could never again stand inside the same royal structure. Harry then asked the question neither man could avoid. Would William restore the duchy right when he became king? The prince stayed silent for several seconds. Then he said he would not reverse Charles's order merely to escape blame for continuing it. The answer was painful, but it was honest. William offered something smaller and more personal. He proposed a direct private line between the brothers, separate from the palace, and carrying no royal privilege. It would not return Harry's position, but it would prevent official separation from becoming permanent personal silence. Harry did not forgive the decision. Still, he accepted that the right would not return. He left with no documents and made no threat. The brothers had reached a private understanding, but outside that room the world was about to turn their silent rupture into the defining royal headline of the day. By sunrise, the private order had become a public earthquake. Broadcasters interrupted scheduled coverage. Palace correspondents gathered outside Buckingham Palace. Newspapers prepared editions, declaring that Prince Harry's final confidential royal privilege had been removed by his own father. Yet one image captured the moment more powerfully than any headline. The Duke leaving the private meeting with William alone, his hands empty, his face fixed forward, and no royal vehicle waiting to carry him through the gates. Buckingham Palace confirmed the decision in a carefully written statement. The announcement said, Harry no longer held any consultative position in confidential Duchy of Lancaster family matters. That meant he would no longer receive private estate papers or be asked for a response before certain family decisions moved forward. The palace stressed that the order did not change his birth, his public title, or his place as Charles's son. But the distinction did little to soften the impact. Broadcasters understood the deeper meaning immediately. The order removed no personal wealth, property, or legal inheritance from the Duke of Sussex. It removed access, recognition, and trust. Commentators described it as the final stage of Harry's institutional separation from the working monarchy. The public royal structure made up of family members carrying out official duties on behalf of the crown. Charles watched the morning coverage in silence. King Charles heard one presenter call the order a father's final rejection and turned off the television before the segment ended. Camilla remained beside him as he said the public would never understand how long he had resisted signing it. The Queen Consort answered that people could see the result, but they could not see the years of hesitation behind it. Harry faced pressure to respond at once. Advisors offered the Duke several statements accusing the palace of cruelty and deliberate exclusion. He rejected them all. Whatever had happened inside the family, he said, should not become another instant performance. His restraint surprised those expecting anger, but it also revealed how deeply the private meeting with William had changed him. Then the front page appeared. A late London edition showed Charles's sealed order beside an empty chair beneath the headline, "The Last Door Closes." Crowds gathered near Buckingham Palace, photographing the page and arguing over whether the king had shown strength or abandoned his son. Anne broke her silence during a recorded exchange at a scheduled engagement. Princess Anne was asked whether the monarchy had rejected Harry. She replied that family affection and royal responsibility did not always produce the same answer. Charles heard those words and began dictating one final letter. It would not reverse the order. It would separate the sovereign's decision from a father's love. The world had delivered its judgment in headlines, but the true verdict would arrive in a private letter carrying no seal, no title, and no command. King Charles's final message to Prince Harry did not arrive through the duchy office. It carried no official crest, no legal schedule, and no demand for acknowledgement. It was written as a father to a son. The king made no apology for protecting the confidential boundaries of the crown, and he offered no promise that the lost privilege would ever return. But he refused to let an institutional ending become proof that love had ended with it. That distinction became the final meaning of the order. Charles made the decision unmistakable. The personal letter stated that Harry's duchy consultation right had been permanently removed and would not be restored through pressure, publicity, or legal challenge. That right had provided access to confidential discussions surrounding the sovereign's private estate and family arrangements. By ending it completely, the monarch removed the false hope that another negotiation might reverse what had happened. Anne accepted the new structure without celebration. Princess Anne formally assumed the confidential family consultation role, while William became the central family voice beside the sovereign, and Edward remained a moderating presence. Harry was still Charles's son and a prince by birth, but he no longer held an internal place within the king's private estate circle. The family connection remained. The royal function did not. Harry read the letter alone. The Duke of Sussex reached the sentence explaining that the crown could not offer privileged access without trusted restraint, but a father's door would remain open without conditions. He lowered the page and closed his eyes. The anger that had carried him through the confrontation finally weakened, leaving behind something harder to fight: grief. Charles returned to the desk where the order had been signed. Camilla found the king staring at the empty space where Harry's original warrant had once rested. The Queen Consort said nothing at first. He finally admitted that protecting the institution did not make losing his son's trust feel like victory. She understood that the crown had succeeded, but the father had suffered. Meghan listened as Harry explained his final choice. The Duchess of Sussex expected him to challenge the order, yet he decided against a formal dispute. He released a restrained written statement acknowledging the decision, while making clear that no internal royal directive could define his entire relationship with his father. William kept his promise and contacted Harry directly. The prince offered no title, access, or reversal. He offered only a private line between brothers. Their relationship was not healed, but it was no longer dependent on royal machinery. There would be no restoration, no hidden reversal, and no second order waiting in the palace. Harry's duchy privilege was gone forever. Charles chose sovereign duty over uncertainty, while his son accepted that blood could preserve love, but only trust could preserve a royal place. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.